This show is brought to you by DF Studios Limited. Whether you're a business owner or entrepreneur, DF Studios will guide and assist you on the best ways to promote your brand digitally, in addition to creating visitor and customer generating content like blogs, social media posts, videos, and even podcasts like this one you're listening to right now. Visit dfstudiosltd.com or hit up info@dfstudiosltd.com for more info. So let's finally talk about the rest of The Last of Us. Haha.
Sure.
Yes, because if you remember, we covered the first two episodes, and yeah, we were just we really enjoyed those first two, right? Um, and if you don't mind, I'll just all right. So what we'll do here, right? So I have to come in as the person who never played these games, right?
Right.
And this is what makes this show so interesting, right? Because yeah, you could have, I don't want to say debates, right? But there's conversations where you'll have the fans, or at least the people who play the games, who could come and
Right.
tell you, all right, I prefer how the game did this moment, or why they
Right.
cut this out, or why they change this up and all that kind of stuff. And I could come in
Right.
and
Right. Right.
say,
Right.
well, I haven't played the games or whatnot. I haven't even
Right.
seen any videos, so I'm just watching this completely blind. But in my head, like watching this, I was like, all right. Or even though there were moments where I couldn't tell if it was from the game or not, they were just
Right.
they were like ever so often they will be like key scenes where I'll be like, all right, this feels like something that would have been from the game, and they just
Yep.
probably adapted it or just sort of tweaked it a little bit, you know what I mean,
Right. Right.
for dramatic purposes, right?
Right.
And yeah, I think that's really what makes this show so incredibly fascinating, right? Where
Yeah.
and
What?
yes, we could get this out of the way, one of the best video game to film adaptations ever.
Right.
But
Well,
just the way
that's
how it's done is just like, all right, it's done in such a way, I should say, where you could still enjoy the game and you could still prefer the game over this. But you have to admit, like, this show is at least doing a great job, I should say, of doing its own thing while staying true to the source material. Like, it's
yeah.
doing
Well,
that, has that nice balance.
yeah. No, that's the thing. It balances it that well because it's the kind of the best game slash to adapt, right? Because the thing is, it was already very derivative of um you know movie stuff in terms of a movie. Like what they do with this is just they take what people did on the internet with make editing it as a movie and then carry it to its cinematic endpoint, right? By actually spending the money and getting real actors and changing up, and making it more realistic and visceral and blah 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 blah. And because of the nature of it, because by the time this game came out, the zombie thing was already well underway, right? I mean, it was already played out. Like I think it was Walking Dead was already in the third season by this point or something like that.
Right.
And
And I'm gonna talk about the Walking Dead. Like I have to
right.
talk about the Walking Dead with
Yeah,
this.
and then even by the time Walking Dead came out, the TV show at least, the zombie thing was played out. So it came really late to the game when it comes to the idea of the zombie format. So even that was like, all right, well, the big sell is the fact that it's a video game, and its gameplay is not cutting edge or brilliant or anything like that. We had the third person shooter for a while now, but it does it reasonably well in terms of the combat, like in terms of how it flows and how it has that realism to everything like that. When people get shot with a shotgun, it's like if they really get shot with a shotgun, stuff like that. It's like really visceral. It don't feel like a video game at all. That kind of stuff, right? And they make it work for the most part. And this is in the same time with stuff like Left 4 Dead already came out a hot minute before this, right? Like a good 5 years passed before this come out, and so on and so forth. And so for this to come back full circle and say, all right, let us carry it to the cinematic end, what you have to sell it on is the story and the characters. And then, well, for lack of a better term, when you see it with the finale, the moral conceits, right? Involving
Yes. Yes.
involving these characters. And for the most part, it works, especially that final episode. So I don't remember if this was ever in the game, but they introduced a brand new sequence involving, well, Bella's mother. Um, this
Oh, that
was,
wasn't in the game. Okay.
as far as I know, this wasn't in the game. Somebody could correct me, but I don't remember
All
this
right.
being in the game. It probably was in a flashback in the second game or something. I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember if this was ever in the game. But I think this was new for the show. So they get to see Bella's mother. I think, if I remember correctly, that is played by the voice of Ellie in the games, the mom.
Yes.
Think
Which I
so.
found out after the fact.
Right, I think so.
Ashley Johnson. I was like, all
Right,
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 cool,
right.
cool. I
And
like
then
that.
I think somebody's played. Well, there's a character in the second game. That person is the voice of that character in this final episode. I think one of the nurses. I think so.
All right.
Voice of
Okay.
Abby. I think either the voice of Abby or supposed to be the actress to play Abby. I can't remember. Well, I don't dig up these things because it's kind of ruin my enjoyment of this stuff. But yeah, yeah, I think it's the perfect inroad for the adaptation. Because remember I tell you, watch that Mario movie, but also watch Sony, right? Because the Sony exclusives are kind of tailor made to be to adapt into movies anyway. All of them, right? Uh Easily we could turn God of War into something. Easily they could turn Horizon Zero Dawn into something, and so on and so forth, right? And this was like the perfect envelope to push this through. And for the most part, it works. I mean, they really nail, especially these last two episodes. You get to see one of the most villainous characters come manifest on screen. I don't think he was as creepy as the games like David. Great episode. And then
Yes,
the
yes,
finale itself,
that's
and what they
episode
do,
8. Yeah.
yeah, and what they do with the finale itself,
Mhm.
also great. Um, it feels a little rushed, little bit. I felt we could have probably got one extra episode, maybe, but like whatever, budget, blah blah blah. They had, the show had to be the show.
I
Um,
know, but it's HBO, man. Make it an even number
A
episodes,
flat
bro.
10.
10 episodes,
A
man.
flat
Come
10 could have
on.
worked, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some people saying it felt a little rushed, especially the final episode being as short as it was.
Yes,
But
yes, yes. Well,
I did have a,
not unbelievably short, but
right,
relatively short though. Like, wow, okay.
relatively short. But I didn't have a problem with it because to me it paced exactly how it needed to be paced, in my humble opinion. However, um, but yeah, they just made the main thing is that they made the characters work. Bella Ramsey, boy, this
Yeah,
girl have a future, boy, because
yeah.
she really nails this character and makes it her own.
Emmy, anyone? Emmy? Perhaps? Yeah, yeah.
And it's little things. I think they did like, okay, so the big moment with her and David at the end. So again, they showed us like to make little changes. So the guy who was the, I forget the character's name, but he was the voice of Joel in the game. Right? He's the one who getting machete in the face.
That's Troy Baker. Yeah.
Troy Baker, but I forget the character's name, right? Yeah.
James. Yeah.
James, right, thank you. Yeah, so they do he had a nice little moment, but the ending, so they changed it from a machete to a Chinese chopper.
Okay, okay.
That sequence with her when she catch the fellow off guard and kill David. Like, yeah, that's exactly how you had to do that. But then they do the sequence with the dinner. And the dinner with well, what they had to eat, right? When they find out what they had to eat. I like, well, this done really well though. This is done really well done. And again, they just take the cinematic aesthetic of it, where they probably wanted to do all the time, and then bring it into the proper movie format and make it work for what it is. And yeah, that's what you had to do with it. Because look, I don't like to say this. I think it's very dismissive of the art form to say this, but I do feel, especially the Sony exclusive and Hideo Kojima in particular, it really comes across like they have a kind of cinema envy. Like they want to make a movie, but they can't afford it, or for whatever reason they can't make a movie, and they decide to make a game instead, or something like that. Again, very dismissive, reductive attitude. Not getting into it, but it feels like that. And now they're finally getting the chance to tell the story in a proper format, quote unquote. Again, I hate using the word proper for this kind of things, but you get my point, right? And I just thought they just did this so well with what it was trying to do, and telling its conceit and making it work. And it really feels like early Walking Dead, when Walking Dead was good, right? Because Walking Dead wasn't good for a good while. Uh, but they just made this work, and I can't be mad at any of this. I don't love it. And the reason I don't love it is because I played the goddamn game already, so I know what was coming. They didn't surprise me in any major way. They made a couple of tweaks and changes here or there, and that opening sequence with the mother, which I have no memory of seeing, because again, I only played the game once. I only played the first game and the second game once. So I don't look back cut scenes or anything like that. So I can't remember the details. But I don't remember seeing that sequence. So somebody could correct me and tell me if that was a thing in the game at all. I do know this was a fact. These are based on facts and information they gathered, but I don't remember this was a thing itself to see. But they made it work. That was a really, really gripping sequence, and they made it really, really intense. Uh, and yeah, again, Bella Ramsey and the internet's daddy right now, Pedro Pascal. Yeah, they really make it work. Really, really solid business, and they ended the exactly same, roughly the same way how the game ended it. And it's like, yeah, this would have been hard. If I didn't know about the games, I would have loved this. So yeah, that's me. Yeah, Matthew, how you feel?
Yeah. So for me, as somebody who never played the games, right? But is familiar with Walking Dead, right? Because yeah, I was a D1, when it started, whatnot, right? And that's coming from somebody who never even read a page or panel of the comic book series, right? I absolutely enjoy this though. You know what I mean? It's just where expectations were high, you know what I mean, and they were met, you know what I mean. But I just love that, as somebody who never played the games, I didn't feel like I had to do extra homework and be like, all right, well, who's this character, and what was the
Right.
relation to this.
Exactly.
I didn't have to do
Yeah.
all that because
No.
the series itself pretty much told me what I need to know, right? Yes,
Right.
I know there's probably some stuff that the games probably explore more, or the DLCs explore a little bit more and whatnot, but for what it is in terms of like what the point of what these stories are, yeah, the show just got right at the heart of it, right? Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're right. It really does feel like. All right, so I'll just talk a bit about the Walking Dead itself, right? So if you were to say, if I would love to see somebody do like some video essay and say, why The Last of Us is better than The Walking Dead, right? And they will
Right.
have to take the whole series into account, right? Not just the first few seasons where it was just stellar, right? Until it
Yeah.
just kind of dropped the ball and just went all kind of different places. I would say around season 7, right? But that's another story for another day, right? But
Right.
yeah,
I would argue what killed Walking Dead was Negan, because
uh,
in the comic he had a ton of hype,
right.
but because like the comic fans and the mainstream fans is two different like sensibilities, his hype totally didn't like was completely inverted in the live
The
action.
series, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's why I think
Like,
that
like he came off strong, like he literally
right,
came out swinging, right?
right,
Literally, right?
right.
But then
But
from that point on, it just felt like they just did not know what to do with him.
yeah,
He
he didn't
was
work
not
at
a
all.
threat. Like with every episode that passed, he
That's
was less and less and
and the
less of a
problem.
threat.
I think the problem again. You're gonna spend too much time on this, but the problem is that we already had the governor, and the governor was already kind of like Negan, not as vicious, but kind of like him. It's the same conceit. No? Like, oh,
Hmm.
it's a bunch of gangs and he's a thug and you had to deal with him, blah blah blah. Whatever. Let's move on.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. Let's move on. So yes, in terms of zombie apocalypse fiction, no, The Last of Us does not do anything overly different, right?
Yeah,
But what I would say this show does so well, though, is just zero in on the characters, right? And not so much, all right, we have to survive, because that would have just been simple, we have to survive, we have to survive.
right.
That's what Walking Dead is. We have to survive. We build a community. We have to survive. We find this old abandoned prison. We have to survive, right? That's the show, right? Rinse repeat, right? Here's all right, it's just, and one thing I love about this show here is that compared to Walking Dead now, where it literally became a soap opera because there was just so much goddamn characters to care about. Here it is zeroing on two leads, right? Joel
Yeah,
and Ellie, right? You're just following them throughout their misadventures, right? And you see how they grow, you know what I mean, as this this father daughter kind of unit, right? You see how that builds it, right? And again, and as I say, it's just the moral complexity that they both have, right?
yeah.
Where it's this world, this kill or be killed kind of world, right? But yeah, I had to make some hard decisions, right? And then while I was watching this, and I see those decisions being made now, I remember like that was one of the things that you loved about the games, right? 'Cause I remember you mentioned, The Last of Us, the first one being one of your favorite games of the past decade,
Yeah, yeah.
and especially that final, that
Final
final
shot.
moment, the final shot.
That
Yeah,
final shot
so
so
like seeing it for
fucking good.
myself,
Yeah,
in this adaptation, I was like, yeah, I
yeah.
understand exactly where you're coming from. I
Yeah,
get why you love that
they
show
did it they
game
did
so
it
much.
almost identically in the scene shot for shot. I saw somebody go online on TikTok. You go see a shot for shot comparison. I didn't watch it yet, but the point is, I thought they did this so good, and Bella Ramsey adds to it really well because
Mhm.
it's real world shit. You could do more shit with your real world stuff. The problem with a mocap and a video game thing, it's still yeah, it's still clumsy puppets for the most part, right? Look,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With
video game
with with with
technology.
with eye with eyes blinking and mouth
Right,
moving.
right, right.
That's
With video game technology, they still have a little, you sort of kind of, stretch yourself and where's called it, where uncanny valley.
Uncanny
Kind of,
Valley. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, kind of ignore some of that, right? But with this, Bella's filled the space. Bella really makes it work. In some
Yeah,
of these shots and scenes and how they cut this stuff together, no? Right? That's
yeah.
why her version when she cut down David and turned David into mincemeat, was way better than the game. Way better, not
I
even close.
imagine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in my humble opinion, it's way better because it's just the real visceralness of it that make it work better, in my humble opinion. But whatever, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
right. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean that's what makes it work, right?
Yeah,
So I can imagine like some people who like expect these zombie apocalypse shows to have a ton of horror and a lot of action. And surprisingly, there's not a lot of horror. There's not a lot of action. I would say there's like little to no horror in this at all, right?
right, right.
It's actually and that's like a good way to compare contrast, right? Where Walking Dead was more on the horror and the scares of it, really, right?
Yeah,
Here's more of the reality of waking up to this world, right? And it makes sense. It comes from Craig Mazin, right? Chernobyl, right? One of the
Yeah,
best TV shows of the past decade, right? Yeah, just waking up and realizing, look, this is the
yeah.
world we in.
The
There's no
day-to-day
way out of
reality
this.
of it
This
is
is
what's
what we got to
scary.
do.
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
day-to-day reality
exactly.
of it is what. Yeah, you really feel because this one again, the game did this quite well, but I find this in the TV show does a great job with the lived-inness of it. Like you're
Yes,
really feeling, yeah, boy, they had to go through every day of this bullshit. No? Like it's not,
exactly.
yeah, it's not some adventure time kind of thing. No, it's like nah, it's serious business. They make it work. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and you see how these characters related. You see how like every time we're introduced to somebody new, you see how they look at the world, right? And how what they have to deal with it, right? Whether it's Tess, you know what I mean? Who
Right,
was in the first couple episodes. I'll just talk briefly about the third episode, long time, right? This is like gonna be easily a fan favorite when it comes to the season here, and
right. There's
rightfully so. Okay, yeah.
Nick Offerman one, the Nick Offerman one.
Yeah, the one with
Right, right,
Bill
right,
and
right, right.
Frank, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
it's fantastic in my opinion, right?
Yeah,
And it's just showing a different side of how these characters, deal with this apocalypse, right? So I mean, yeah, I mean we know it is, right? It's Bill played by Nick Offerman, sorry, and it's Frank played by Murray Bartlett, and they just, they are a couple, right? And they just living their lives out together, in love and whatnot. But as you'd expect in a world like this, you know what I mean, their comfort is soon interrupted, and you see how that plays out in the end, right? And that leads to a really amazing, simple, but just really poignant final shot, right? One of the best in the series, right? But yeah, they're showing that it's not just about being tough and having to survive. I find it so great though that
it
that Bill himself, he starts off as a survivalist. Like I just like
right,
that it starts off like that, and then
right.
he just meets his guy. Is like, well, I'm not about that anymore. Like I'm still gonna
It
protect the
sells
home, but
what I like
I
about
love
it.
that.
Yeah, what I like about it, it sells it very sells the conceit of don't the distinction between surviving and living. Um, that's why it works. Don't lose your humanity. They really do that well in this. Walking Dead never really do that. At least the TV show, it have moments they make it work, but Walking Dead was all about the surviving. This really sells this conceit of look in the face of nothingness. How to behave. In the face of this complete despair of a situation, this how to make it work. And yeah, the release and that third episode was it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why it worked. Yeah,
exactly, right. I wish we got a little bit more out of just to touch on antagonists for a bit, right? Because I find like with these this season here, it's a little tiny nitpick. There was no real like main villain, like say like a
no,
Walking Dead, right?
no,
It's
you don't
just
need
like all right,
one.
like a couple
Yeah,
episodes, okay, it would be this person, and then it'll be next episode will be that person, right? So case in
yeah,
point, Kathleen
David.
Coughlin, right, who is played by
Right, right,
Melanie
right, right, right,
Lynskey.
right. Yeah,
She
I
was
forget
from
what she is.
Yellow Jackets, right? Yeah, she was
Yeah, yeah.
just there and acting tough. Sorry to say it, but she was acting tough, but she was convincing. But
Yeah.
she's really acting tough, the character, right?
Well,
Uh,
it's a lot more. It's a lot more humanistic than The Walking Dead was. Like one of the things about The Walking Dead, look, we can get into this debate about the anthropology of the apocalypse and how people are going to actually behave, right?
right.
But Walking Dead never felt a little too, how to say it, boy. Like I don't think people will turn out like that. That's the kind of the Mad Max concept. Like
Or
to
like
me
see
that feels
like especially like oh gosh, like oh gosh, we mentioned him before,
the
oh
road.
gosh. No, in Walking Dead, the main villain, the one with the bat.
Negan,
Negan,
yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
just the way how Negan moves is very Mad Max extra. That's like,
right. But and
yeah,
I
it's
think
the
that
future and we just off the deep end. So yeah,
yeah,
humanity
and
throw
I
that
was
shit
like,
out
yeah,
the window, bro.
yeah, that's the thing. I get old because it does come across more like a psychotic fantasy than what I think people would actually behave like, in my humble opinion. Again, pure speculation. We don't know one way or the other. But I don't know. To me, this felt a lot more. This is what people are going to be like in this one. And when you get into the debate, the second game does a lot of things which I don't like, but it still has that conceit of it of no, it's still people have to deal with the situation as it is. And they to me they borrow from actual human history to make it make sense. Whilst Walking Dead always felt too Mad Maxy, too
Agreed.
fantastical. That's just me. But whatever.
No,
I just think
you're right. You're right. Yeah, they, they,
yeah,
they are like that, because
yeah,
yeah, it can't just be about the zombies. It has to be the humans
yeah.
and the fall of humanity. But yeah, you're right. They do
Yeah,
have
yeah,
a,
and
a Mad Max
the thing
quality to
is,
them.
like it had this one episode, one moment in Walking Dead that I was like, look, it's good tension, but it don't feel realistic at all. Like when oh gosh, forget the character name, but the one who with the hammer, the fella he's gonna basically slit a baby throat in front of him to stop him from something. Like really, this guy gonna slit a
Oh
baby throat?
yeah.
Like I know that people could do that. I know humanity capable of that, but you sure? Like we're doing
Nah,
this, like, and it to me
nah.
it's feel more shock value-ish than them comics of the early 2000s. It's kind of like with the
Mm,
boys. It's just to shock you, know. Like look
yeah.
how evil this person is, and Walking Dead don't do that at all. Sorry,
Um,
Last of Us
Last
don't
of
do that
Us. Yeah.
at all. Don't do that at
Agreed.
all. No situation, no decision feels like something that a complete psychopath kind of empathic, completely lacking empathy kind of attitude gonna have. There's
Yeah.
the ending there's the ending, and the ending is completely understandable. Not from a moral
Of
standpoint,
course. I'll talk about
but
the end in a bit. Yeah.
it totally understandable from a flawed, broken human perspective, attitude. Whatever,
Right.
we'll get to that. Go ahead, yeah.
Right. So a few things for you. So yeah, just to get back to Kathleen, yeah, I mean, even though you might kind of scoff at you like, oh, why you being so tough and trying to be a hard ass and
Right.
threatening to kill prisoners, but the story she gives, right? I mean, you could go back and forth as to whether that's justifiable for it to be like that. But in the world of The Last of Us, like, all right, I can
Right.
understand you lost your brother, so all right, yeah, you want to be a badass. Okay, I get, right? But I do like what happens in the next episode, right? So just to touch on those two episodes, that's 4 and 5. Henry and Samboy. Oh my God.
Yeah. Brutal. Yeah.
And
Real brutal.
again, with this show just introducing us to characters, and it's just really and truly is what it's not like they instill some sort of advice or whatnot to Joel and Ellie, but it's just how they deal with this apocalypse and how they survive, right? And you could see how that impacts them, especially Ellie, boy, especially with how that fifth episode ends by.
Yeah.
Wow, a true gut punch. Like I will never forget. I was just watching this on a Saturday afternoon, right? And right afterwards, I just paused. I just when the episode end, I
Yep.
literally just went outside and went by the corner by something to eat.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah, take
nah,
a
boy,
breather.
nah,
Yeah. Yeah, to take a breather.
fuck all your dread. Why are you gonna do this for, boy?
Yeah. They make it real good, yeah.
I had to go out to get air, right? Literally
Yeah.
because of how that played out, right?
You know?
I actually like basically, oh gosh, Joel's conceit with him trying to locate his brother, right? I
Right.
like that whole show is not about him trying to find his brother Tommy. He finds him and it's like, all right, you're here, you're in this community, very, very Walking Dead-esque, where it's like, all right, well, this is community of survivors, okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I did
they
think
make a
it, all right,
funny,
Joel just
they
stay
make the
there,
funny
but
joke about the commune, and it's like, are you communist? It's like, no. And it's,
but yes,
yeah, and like, no, it's a commune. It's actually that we literally are communists. It's like, that's funny.
Yeah. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like how it's just like, well, all right, well, Joel pretty much tell Ellie, you have a choice. You could see with Tommy, or you could come with me, right?
Right.
It's like, yeah, you could come with me, right? And then, well, near the end of the episode, he gets attacked, right? And then, well, you have, that great episode Left Behind, you know what I mean, which features the character of Riley, played by McGill
Yep.
Stormfree, right?
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, this just great flashback episode, and well, that pretty much it leaves a certain point open, right? And then, well, in the last episode, it's revealed, yeah, because she mentioned earlier on that where she never said that she ever killed anyone, and she's like, yeah,
Right.
she did, right? But she never
Yeah.
said who. In this case, it turned out to be Riley because Riley
Yeah.
got bit.
Yeah, when Riley turned, but she didn't know she was immune now at the time. No, because
Right.
when they both got bit, they thought, all right, well, we're both gonna die together, blah blah blah, and that
Yeah.
didn't happen. So that's when you solve the problem. And then when Marlene got to her, Marlene knows why, because we know why. Right. Yeah, go ahead.
And Marlene, by the way, is she was in the first episode. She pretty much the character who kicked things off, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, all right, I'm trying to get Ellie, you know what I mean, because she has a cure or she has some way to create a cure, right, for this
Right.
for this virus, right? Yeah, but Left Behind was strong as well. And the hits just keep coming from there. By episode 8, where Ellie pretty much has to survive on her own, by and then she
Right.
encounters David, right? Yeah, which
Yeah,
is
right.
easily the best antagonist we've got in this season
Right.
thus far.
I think with
how
David,
that plays out was great.
yeah, the thing with David, I think, okay, if I was the problem is that I knew what to look for with David, because you know what
That's
was
the thing.
good
I
with
didn't
it.
know, so I did like,
Right.
yeah, real
But
cool
if-
and trustworthy
if-
and shit.
if
But
you're
then afterwards,
comparing-
like, yeah, we're gonna go for Joel and Ellie, we're
Right.
gonna go for them. Just so right after,
Right.
but like, what?
Yeah, so if you're comparing game to movie, well, game to TV show, the TV show works slightly better, but only if you don't know, and that's the thing. It's impossible to compare because you must see one before the other. But I think if I were to if we could have somehow judge Bud with a blank slate, TV show does it slightly better, because of his creepiness
Okay.
as the actor, because of the actor.
Yes.
But because I didn't know the first time what played the game, that's the catch. So it's like, all right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you could see, because again, I mean, well, Joel is pretty much incapacitated. He can't move at all, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Ellie is on her own, and you can really see how much she's learned from Joel, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
riding a horse or learning or just knowing how to shoot a gun, right? A rifle, sorry, right? And yeah, you just get that moment with her cutting down like this, literally hacking down David boy with that Chinese shopper boy, and it's
Yeah.
so visceral boy, but it's
Yeah, they're
so
brutal.
satisfying in a brutal way, but it
Yeah,
totally
grinding.
works. And Bella
Pure
Ramsey,
grindiness.
just to touch on her briefly for a bit, boy, she absolutely kills it in that episode, right? And
Yeah.
in this last episode too, which I'll get to in a bit, right? But yeah, just her as a whole, because I just know her from just those few appearances on Game of Thrones though. But
Yeah.
here she just nailed that character very well though. And even though and she just does a lot with just her facial features, you're just like, all right, not so much numb to everything that's going on, the violence and the hunger and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not too overly cynical about it neither. Like there's moments where she's
Right.
kind of cynical about it, but it's like, all right, I just
Why?
get this is the
Okay.
way
So I
how it
think,
is,
yeah, I think,
so it's like whatever. But
yeah.
at the same time, I like that she is still a kid, true and true, right?
Right.
So like you have like that great moment in Left Behind, that episode where she on that the escalator, we the
Right.
first time. Like that's a nice moment, like a really
Yeah. Yeah.
nice
They
moment. You know what I
sell.
mean? I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, they sell that conceit quite well in terms of like again how to play it. Like you can say like how somebody who's genuinely ignorant of something could operate now and be impressed. Because they really have a bunch of moments with her with being of wonder now. Like so, well, the episode, the ending, the final episode have a great moment with the two of them. Well, you know it is involving a giraffe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
stuff like
really
that.
nice. So
Yeah,
unexpected. I did not see that coming, but that was
yeah,
nice. Yeah.
right, little stuff like that. Yeah,
Right, and I was actually surprised. I was from the game too. 'Cause I just
I
thought
did
they
the game.
just,
Yeah,
yeah, I just thought they just, again, just watching it, didn't know that it was from the game, but it's only after
yeah,
the fact, right? But yeah, and then also too, I mean, Joel, I like how he opens up in that final episode as well.
right,
Too. You
right,
can
right,
really
right.
see him as just this father, because he lost his daughter Sarah in the first episode, so you could see how he's warming up to her now, right? Being less cynical towards her, right? And yeah, I mean, what more can be said about Pedro Pascal? He is fantastic in this whole show. Even when he's injured, right? Like in episode 7 and 8, he's great, right? He just sells that vulnerability, boy. But what I do, episode 8, boy, when the man get back up, when you get that penicillin there, and he just start like stabbing men in the kneecaps, where I was like,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. You know what I mean? It was just so satisfying. Again, it's brutal,
Straight from
but
the game,
you
the part of the
understand
macro.
why,
Yeah,
Jen.
yeah,
And what he do with that
yeah.
other guy, I
Straight from the
love
game.
that. He's
Yeah,
like, you know what, fuck you, I'm not gonna tell you shit. It's like, all right, okay,
I believe him.
shut
Yeah,
down, Jen. I
yeah.
love that, right? So now we'll get to the final episode. Shortest episode, it just runs for like 43 minutes, right? But you're right, it is very, very, very well paced though. You have your downtime, you have the moments, you have the character moments, between the two of them. But I like that it just kind of slowly reveals how they've learned a lot throughout this about with this journey and whatnot, right? And while it did not end the way how I expected it, right? In terms of like I just was kind of just watching. I just thinking like the main goal was either to go to Tommy or it was just to hook back up with oh gosh, with Marlene and the cure and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't play out like that, right?
Yeah,
But
no happens. Yeah,
it makes sense, right? But yeah, where how Marlene comes into this, I thought was pretty interesting because yeah, she real set this up like, okay, well, this is what we have to do, right? But the end result is that Ellie could die, right?
yeah.
But I can understand from her perspective why she wants to do it that way, right?
Oh
But
yeah,
I could,
yeah.
but again, with more complexity, I can understand totally, especially with what Joel has been through.
Yep.
Why he not gonna stand he not gonna stand for that at all. So I
Yeah.
do not blame him for going all chow yun fat, i.e. from hard boiled and shooting people up in a hospital. I was like, yes, do that shit, do that
Yeah.
shit. I
Yeah,
don't blame
yeah.
him at all, right? But
Yeah. And
but
the
there's
thing
a
is,
part
Joel,
where
Joel's
like
completely wrong in this. Like, let's be clear.
exactly.
I think Joel is completely wrong in this whole situation. But why they
I
make it
can
worse?
understand. But I will say though that doctor, the doctor who is in the in the, who is there in the at the nursing, sorry, who is there at the operating table, he didn't deserve that shot to the head though. He didn't deserve. Well, I think he got shot in the head or something like that. He didn't deserve that shit. The man was doing the
Yeah,
job, like you just
he
blow,
becomes
like
ve-
why, boy?
yeah, he becomes very yeah, no, listen, he becomes very relevant later.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, we gotta get into that. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, yeah. And But yeah, but I totally understand where he's coming from, right? But I love how that episode and the show itself just pretty much tells you, yeah, you're not really supposed to side with him with what he does, right? But
No,
you
right.
understand at least why he does it, right?
Yeah,
And
they
then
make
you
it right. And the thing is with the
right,
game, so there's a big distinction with the game and the show. In the case of the game is your character. You have to do this. You making the decision. Well, making the decision in quotes. Uh, about that. So playing as the game, especially the game, you'll be spending more time in the game because the game. I forget how long the game is, like 20 plus hours or whatever it is. This not as long, but it's still perspective. Conceits. Though. They try to sell that. Though. So it's all of them things.
right, right. And last thing last, right? Because we could talk for days about Last of Us, right? And rightfully so, right? Yeah, that final moment between Joel and Ellie is great. Especially like when the moment I saw the end and like when she pauses before she says that okay, I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's from the game. I know it.
yeah,
I know it because I remember you mentioned it. I remember
yeah.
other people mentioned like, yeah, this is from the game. But in my head, I thought that it was in a different context. Like maybe they were in a different setting or it
Nah,
was a
yeah.
different scenario. But you tell me it's like literally lifted from the game. I'm like,
Pretty
wow,
much,
okay,
yeah. Pretty
yeah,
much,
yeah,
yeah.
right. So just in closing,
Again,
if I just
small little nitpick details here or there, but yeah, for the most part, yeah.
right, right. So if I just have one tiny little nitpick though, like I felt like the show itself, just me going off of what I know about zombie apocalypse shows, I thought we would have got more of the infected. I thought we would have got more of
Right.
the fireflies because I was
Nah.
liking the firefly stuff. I was liking that whole tension with societies breaking down because you have this military organization that want to keep people in QZs, but all that kind of stuff. Like I was liking that, and I was actually surprised that the show wasn't really about that. Like it was just
Exactly.
okay, one place would deal with that, but not this other place, right? And same thing with the infected. Like, it's not like every single episode you're gonna have rampage and infected chasing you or whatnot. Like,
Right.
it's not Walking Dead where every episode literally have to have zombies, right? It's not like that. So that actually surprised me. That was something I had to get used to, but it's kind of a breath of fresh air pretty much, right? But yeah, for what this is though, I really, really appreciate this. I really dug this. Um and again, I am going just from the perspective of somebody who never played the game, right? But I would love to kind of picture myself having played the game and then watch this and then making my opinion on it, right? But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
so I will speak as somebody who never played this game. Yeah, Last of Us, the series totally works. I hearing things about what we might get from the second season, and I know it has some people worried, especially with Pedro Pascal being such a likable lead.
Right.
But
Yep. Yeah.
I will just wait to see how the second season plays out,
Right.
and we'll see.
It'll be interesting what they do with it. Like, because I'm not sure if they'll do it. I mean, the thing is, that's the story though. Like, that's what it is. So I don't know if what they go change or whatnot now. We will see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'll close with this. I just do hope that we don't get some 10 or 11 episode run like Walking Dead. What I mean is like I just hope that they don't stretch the story out way too long than it should, right? They when it comes to HBO series, they always kind of know, all right, we kind of we let me not go too far with it, let me just stop here, right? So like Sopranos or The Wire, for example. But ever so often stretch things off way too long, like
Yeah.
say Game of Thrones, and then rush things and then come up with that underwhelming end. So I don't expect that they will do that here with this because you could tell that they really came, you really came with a strong how to say, like, you could tell they really loved the source material. They really wanted to
Yeah.
say true to it. And the last thing I imagine anybody wants to do, right, whether it's Craig Mazin or Neil Druckmann himself, I think the last thing they want to do is mess things up here because, yeah, they start off on a real strong note, boy. So, yeah, rating wise for me, I'm going to give this a strong 4. Season 1, sorry. Strong 4 to like 4.5 out of 5, man. This is easily one of the year's best TV shows by far. It lived up to the hype and more. But again, I just wish that I came into this as somebody who played the games. I think I would have, viewed this, the way how you did, Ricardo, right? But just for me, seeing it as somebody who never played the game is really fascinating to me, and I would love to just see more people like comment on, like yeah, they changed this and I like this, or maybe this is what they could have done better and whatnot, right? But yeah, for what they did here, boy, this was a stellar way to kick
Yeah.
this franchise off, man. So can't wait for the second season.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. Final thoughts, rating, anything else you want to weigh in on?
Yeah. I'll give it a very high score. Probably close on 9, 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10, but close on 9. Very very high. The only thing that kind of pulls it down to me is more my personal aspect of it as well. I played it already. I played this game already. I see it before. They didn't change enough for me to already say, wait, this real mind blowing or anything like that. But it's still really well executed. I have very, very few problems with it for the most part. Yeah, 8 closer to 9. We could get into a larger discourse about how to adapt movies, but what they did with this, they play it super safe. This is the safest possible, best option you could do to adapt in a video game into live action. And yeah, they absolutely nail it. It is the easiest. I'll just say it like that. It is the easiest thing to do. It'll be a little harder to do other material for what they're trying to do with that. And again, we'll talk about budgets and all these extra things coming on the pipeline for streaming shows across the board. However, this is how you're supposed to do it. They nailed it. I can't be mad at it. Bella Ramsey is a star. She probably going to win an Emmy for this, so she at least should be nominated. But I thought this was overall really excellent and really well done. So yeah, 8 out of 10, but a very high 8, closer to 9.